Why America used nuclear weapon on Japan? The United States used nuclear weapons on Japan during World War II for strategic and military reasons. The decision to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains a highly debated and controversial topic, with various perspectives on its necessity, morality, and long-term consequences. Here are the key reasons behind the use of nuclear weapons on Japan. Number 5. Ending the war quickly. By mid-1945, the Second World War had reached a crucial turning point in Europe with the defeat of Nazi Germany. However, the conflict persisted in the Pacific Theater, where the Allied forces, primarily led by the United States, were engaged in a protracted and grueling campaign against Imperial Japan. The island-hopping strategy employed by the Allies had successfully gained ground, but the Japanese resistance remained fierce, and the prospect of a full-scale invasion of the Japanese mainland loomed ominously. Military planners estimated that such an invasion, codenamed Operation Downfall, would result in staggering casualties on both sides. The Japanese demonstrated a resolute refusal to surrender, holding onto the belief in their ability to repel any invasion. Faced with the grim prospect of a prolonged and costly conflict, the Allied leaders, particularly in the United States, saw a swift and decisive conclusion to the war. The urgency to end hostilities became even more pronounced as the toll of the Pacific War continued to mount, and the Allies sought a solution that would avoid the necessity of a large-scale invasion and the associated human cost. It was within this context that the decision to use nuclear weapons on Japan was made, with the goal of compelling a surrender and bringing an end to the war in the Pacific. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, while achieving the objective of hastening Japan's surrender, remain subjects of historical scrutiny, ethical debate, and reflection on the devastating consequences of nuclear warfare. Number 4. Deterrence and demonstrating power. The use of atomic bombs by the United States during World War II had broader geopolitical implications, particularly in the context of emerging Cold War tensions with the Soviet Union. The U.S. aimed to showcase not only its military strength, but also its technological superiority by employing these devastating weapons. As World War II drew to a close, the United States found itself in a unique position as the sole possessor of atomic weaponry. The decision to use these bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was, in part, a strategic move to signal to the Soviet Union and other potential adversaries the unprecedented destructive power at the United States' disposal. By unleashing the atomic bombs, the United States intended to send a clear and forceful message about its capabilities, both to its wartime allies and to the Soviet Union, its former partner in the fight against the Axis powers. The post-war geopolitical landscape was rapidly evolving, marked by a shifting global power structure and the beginning of the Cold War. The demonstration of atomic capabilities was therefore a diplomatic and strategic maneuver aimed at influencing the dynamics of the emerging superpower rivalry. In essence, the use of atomic bombs served a dual purpose, bringing about a swift end to the war in the Pacific by compelling Japan to surrender and simultaneously establishing the United States as the preeminent military and technological power in the post-war world. This event played a significant role in shaping the early stages of the Cold War as the United States and the Soviet Union entered into an era of competition, suspicion, and an arms race that would define international relations for decades to come. Number 3. Avoiding a costly invasion. Operation Downfall was the codename for the planned invasion of the Japanese mainland during World War II. As military planners prepared for this massive undertaking, they confronted the sobering reality that a land invasion of Japan would likely exact an exceptionally high human cost. Estimates suggested that the number of casualties could reach into the millions, encompassing both Allied forces and the Japanese defenders. The anticipated toll of Operation Downfall stemmed from multiple factors. Japan had proven to be a formidable opponent throughout the Pacific War, displaying a resolute commitment to defending its homeland. The Japanese government had made clear its determination to resist any invasion, and this resolve, coupled with the rugged terrain of Japan itself, contributed to the grim projections of the invasion's human toll. In light of these daunting prospects, the use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was considered an alternative strategy to bring about a quicker end to the war. The bombings were intended to compel Japan to surrender without necessitating the large-scale land invasion that would undoubtedly result in catastrophic loss of life on both sides. The devastating impact of the atomic bombs, with their unprecedented destructive power, was expected to shock Japanese leaders into recognizing the futility of continued resistance and prompt them to seek an end to hostilities. Ultimately, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki achieved their immediate objective by accelerating Japan's surrender. However, the use of nuclear weapons remains a subject of ethical and historical debate due to the immense human suffering caused by the bombings and the long-term consequences of introducing atomic warfare. Number 2. Revenge for Pearl Harbor. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, was a pivotal moment that profoundly impacted the United States and played a crucial role in shaping its approach to World War II. The attack carried out by the Japanese resulted in extensive damage to the U.S. Pacific Fleet and led to the loss of numerous lives. This event evoked a visceral response from the American public and leadership. The attack on Pearl Harbor had a profound emotional impact on the American people, generating a strong sense of shock, anger, and deep desire for revenge. The images of the damaged fleet and the loss of military personnel fueled a collective determination to respond decisively to the aggression. The phrase "Remember Pearl Harbor" became a rallying cry, symbolizing the commitment to seek retribution for the unprovoked attack. In the wake of Pearl Harbor, the United States abandoned its previous stance of neutrality and fully committed itself to the war effort. The desire for revenge, coupled with a sense of duty and patriotism, galvanized the nation's resolve to defeat the Axis powers. The attack on Pearl Harbor became a catalyst for the United States to actively engage in both the Pacific and European theaters of the war. This collective response to the attack played a significant role in shaping the U.S. military strategy and contributed to the decision to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. The memory of Pearl Harbor fueled a determination to bring the war to a swift and decisive conclusion, with the hope of securing a lasting peace and preventing future acts of aggression against the United States. Number 1. Unconditional surrender. The Allied powers led by the United States had demanded Japan's unconditional surrender as a non-negotiable requirement to bring an end to World War II in the Pacific. The use of nuclear weapons in 1945 was a strategic move with the explicit purpose of breaking Japan's will to continue the fight and compelling its leaders to surrender without any conditions. By dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the United States aimed to demonstrate an overwhelming and unprecedented display of destructive power. The intent was to shock Japanese leaders into recognizing the futility of their resistance and to impress upon them the urgency of surrendering immediately. The destructive capability of the atomic bombs was intended to leave no room for negotiation or resistance, as the Allies sought an unequivocal and complete end to hostilities. The demand for unconditional surrender was rooted in the Allies' determination to prevent a repeat of the circumstances that led to the prolonged and devastating conflict. It was seen as a way to ensure that Japan would be completely disarmed and stripped of its ability to resume hostilities. The use of nuclear weapons, while controversial, was viewed by Allied leaders as a means to achieve a swift resolution and avoid the potential continuation of the war through prolonged negotiations. In essence, the deployment of atomic bombs was a calculated move to bring about Japan's surrender on Allied terms, marking the end of one of the most destructive conflicts in history. The impact of this decision continues to be the subject of historical debate and ethical scrutiny. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon.